Hey everybody, this is Kuuimpact with Let's Play The Night of the Rabbit, the extra stories. Now, okay, I went and listened to the stories after stopping after that first one and tried to clock the timer on. And by the time it reached the fifth story, the footage would have been like an hour, like 60 minutes. So that's a long time, especially since a lot of these stories are just had tedium dialogue. They're really nice. So instead of listening to all the stories, we're going to listen to the two crucial stories, 7 and 8,
Story.
which are a lot shorter,
When
as
the
you can see.
animals wanted to drive a stranger out of their woods, but found a friend instead.
That way
Spitzweg
we're
the
saving
marmot
time.
was a wanderer. His current journey was coming to an end, since just a few steps separated him from home. Just a few steps till he set foot in his beloved mousewood again. Spitzweg had travelled far. He had seen the sea and the mountains. He
Because
had
this is
rafted
Spitzwig's
rivers,
story.
taken trains, and met many animals, even making friends in places where people welcomed him in foreign languages. All this just proved him right, he thought to himself. A friendly fellow is welcome everywhere. Marmots, by the way, are small animals which are similar to mice or squirrels, but which are, in fact, marmots. Spitzweg
See, it's
turned to the dirt track he'd
that
walked as
kind
a
of writing
kid on
right
the way
there.
to
You
school.
know, like squirrels
Today
or
the track
this, but
seemed so
no, it's
much
actually
narrower.
marmots. Like the
The
way it's
marmot was
written,
looking forward to
it's just
putting
to
his
extend the
rucksack
dialogue.
down
Like
and
they
his
needed
feet
to
up
reach
when
a
he got
reach a
home.
word count.
But he was not quite there yet. Suddenly the ground beneath Spitzweg began to shake. At first the wanderer thought it was an earthquake, as he had experienced on his travels. Then he remembered there were no earthquakes in Mousewood. If the earth shook here, there was only one explanation. And indeed, suddenly about 20 wild boar crashed out of the dense undergrowth and stampeded past him, blazing a trail through the forest. At first glance it looked as though they did so recklessly, flattening everything in their path. A keener observer, however, could see they were extraordinarily careful and had a keen eye for their surroundings, even though they were en route to their favourite wallow. This became clear when one of the hogs noticed Spitzweg. He broke away from his fellow boars, ran a curve, and approached the wayfaring marmot at hog speed. "Are my eyes playing tricks on me again?" he grunted loudly. "No, big fella, they aren't," Spitzweg said to the tusker. "Spitzweg!" he called and squealed so loudly one would have been forgiven for trembling in fear. "Welcome home!" This was music to Spitzweg's ears. Coming home always feels good, but it feels even better if someone welcomes you, especially if it's a good friend like Fiddler the boar. Fiddler was of impressive size, so impressive, in fact, that no one dared take his chances with this hulk of a hog. As a piglet, he had often been mocked, without the other children needing a particular reason. He was just a piglet, a pushover. But Spitzweg had looked after Fiddler, and so they had long been good friends. "How are you? How was your journey?" asked the boar. "Good," replied Spitzweg. "So many stories to tell. But I'm heading home first. Sleep is the reward for staying
Hey, in
up all
Ku's
day.
opinion, too
And
many
I
stories
think
to
I'm going to
tell. I mean,
collect
these
my
are
share."
really good, but the writing
"You should
gets a
get some
little
rest then,"
tedious.
Fiddler grunted. "Good to have you back." "It's good
There's
to
always
be
a
back,"
moral at the end of
said the
each
marmot,
story, so pay
amicably
attention.
patting the boar's bristles and raising some dust. They walked some way down the path when a sudden noise startled them. A human noise. Spitzweg and his friends hid in the bushes at the wayside. Humans tend to get nervous if they come across wild hogs or marmots, and you never know what a nervous human will get up to. So animals prefer to keep some distance between them and humans, as at least the rarer specimens inevitably make humans extra nervous. The human roaming nearby, however, didn't seem one of the nervous kind. He was trying to whistle a tune. It wasn't quite clear what song it was supposed to be. Whistling obviously wasn't one of his strong points. The young man looked to the left and right as he passed the bushes where Spitzweg and Fiddler were hiding.
I wonder if this is John Muir.
"Reminds me of my brother," Fiddler whispered. The hog didn't say this because
Why are
of
the animals
physical
subserving
resemblance,
this human
but
anyways?
because his whistling sounded very much like Fiddler's brother.
Whole nature versus
Suddenly,
nurture thing kicking
out
in
of the
on
blue,
these things.
A chestnut hit the young man on the back of the head. "Hey," he said, looking around. But since there was no one to be seen, he thought the chestnut had just fallen from one of the trees. He didn't realize there were only beech trees growing around him, and very rarely do chestnuts drop from beech trees. Then, just as the young man wanted to stroll on, the beeches seemed eager to make some more exceptions. Pock, pock, pock! A volley of chestnuts and acorns hit him on the back and head. That started to make the human nervous. He tried to duck and dodge, but, clumsy as humans are, he staggered, fell full length on the ground, and lay there, out for the count. Pock! Another acorn hit him on the head. "Give him a break, I think he's had enough," someone shouted from above. As the human was no longer something to be feared, and they wanted to know what was going on, Spitzweg and Fiddler left their hiding place. 3 young weasels climbed down the trunk of a beech tree and cautiously approached the unconscious man. All 3 had shoulder bags packed with chestnuts. From behind a nearby tree, Humbert the mouse also came out of hiding, his sister Tina clinging to his hand. His mother had once again made him babysit his little sister. He wasn't too keen on that, as he then had to take her into account when planning his adventures. "What are you up to, boys?" Spitzweg asked the weasels. "Who wants to know?" the tallest of the weasel boys asked. "My friend and I do," Fiddler grunted, growling and clawing the ground. This made an impression on the weasels. It even made them flinch. Little Humbert, however, seemed not so easily impressed. He faced Fiddler and the marmot. His sister wanted to befriend the brawny boar and tried to go over to him, but her brother kept a tight grip on her hand. "We just wanted to chase away that human," Humbert explained. "I see," Spitzweg said with arms folded. "He didn't get very far, did he?" He approached the human and put his hands on the man's body. He felt his chest rise and fall. He seemed all right, considering he'd been scared unconscious. He'd be back on his feet soon enough. "Humans don't belong in our woods," said one of the weasels. Spitzweg looked at him blankly. "Humans don't belong here?" he asked. "You know what humans are like," replied the weasel. "They trample through our forest, disturbing the peace," said another weasel. The third weasel nodded frantically in approval and said, "Right, they disturb the peace." "They come here and think they can do as they please," the first weasel added. "We must put a stop to it. We must finally put a stop to it." "A stop to it," said Humbert's little sister, smiling brightly at her new friend Fiddler, proud she had repeated the sentence so well, even though she didn't actually know what it meant. "What exactly did that human do to you? Did he whistle too loudly?"
He was man. He
Spitzweg asked,
whistled too loudly.
as he couldn't stand it when someone was harassed, especially if they hadn't
You know,
done
he
anything
brought
wrong.
the gray tidal wave or whatever.
Even if that someone was a roughly
progressiveness.
6-foot-tall human
Growing
who
the
stumbled
forest.
over his own
6 foot
feet and
tall,
couldn't whistle
jeez.
properly. "Well, he
That's like
hadn't
how
done
many
anything
stories,
yet,"
though, in,
admitted
like,
one of the weasels. "Maybe not," the
considering
second weasel
height
intervened,
from
"but
the
only
perspective of a
because we
mouse.
didn't give him the chance.
How many stories tall?
5 minutes later, he might have stomped through somebody's garden or grabbed your neighbour because he needed a warm hat for winter. Right, the third
Ooh, well,
weasel
you know,
confirmed.
raccoons.
A hat. "I've heard of humans doing such things," Humbert said all-knowingly. "You know how humans are. Humans leave their litter wherever they go. They pick flowers and gather mushrooms from our clearings. And then they go home again." "Right," said all 3 weasels simultaneously. "So you think all humans are like that?" asked Spitzweg.
I mean, humans have
"Of
to survive
course.
on the planet
It's
too.
always
It's
the
an
same with them. I
ecosystem.
dare you to say otherwise."
Why the
said
hell
one
does
of
this
the
guy think it's
weasels
okay?
belligerently.
He thinks it's not okay,
"You're a
maybe?
cheeky chappy, aren't you?" growled
Cheeky
Fiddler,
chappy.
looking
Cheeky
fiercely at the
breeky.
weasel. "I'm sorry," the weasel whispered meekly. Tina giggled, as she found his fierce face quite amusing. "You know, I've been to many places during the last couple of years. Up in the north, I was even attacked by an albino penguin. Believe me, it's not always the same with humans, said Spitzweg, pointing at the young man
This week
lying
was
on
up
the
with
ground.
penguins? What the hell?
If you think all humans are alike, you might as well say all mice are alike. He looked at Humbert. Well, we may look similar, the young mouse admitted, but we're not all alike. My Uncle Henry, for example, he's different. He's a gardener and he talks to his ivy. There you are, said the marmot. There certainly are humans who are gardeners, just like your uncle is. Some humans may on
but are you
occasion
not
disturb
questioning
the
that the
peace and
humans are
misbehave.
like you, or that you're like the
But if
humans?
somebody
Like,
strolls
why don't you
through the
reveal to the
forest
humans,
whistling,
man?
That's no reason to chase him away. Whistling is not a crime.
In normality, whistling's a crime.
Humbert admitted.
They
I'd
threw
rather
away
whistle,
Kent Knudsen for it.
Fiddler remembered. The wind whistles when it blows through the hole in my wall, one of the weasels said. The other two looked at him inquisitively. Really, just like someone who was whistling, explained the weasel. Whistling or not, yelled one of the other weasels, you can't compare humans to animals. They don't belong in the forest. They should stay where they belong. They should just leave us alone. You want the humans to leave us alone? Asked the marmot. If the humans knew you were throwing chestnuts at ramblers, you can imagine it wouldn't be peaceful here for very long. We don't like getting hit by chestnuts either, do we, boys? Added Fiddler the
And he
Boar.
unzips his pants. Oh, wait,
Humans
no.
aren't all
They're
the
not
same,
wearing pants. Shit.
apart from the fact they don't like being hit by chestnuts.
Animals.
And in that, they're no different from us animals, Spitzweg said, and faced the young man. Just look at him. Doesn't he look peaceful? The animals fell silent. They listened to the humans breathing. Humans even benefit the forest, Spitzweg said calmly. They wander our woods and collect acorns, beechnuts and chestnuts. And when they dispose of the seeds, maybe a new tree grows there. A new forest could even grow in another place. Humbert, who was easily persuaded by scientific explanations, approved. Sounds reasonable, he said. As long as they don't do anything unfriendly, we can consider them our friends, Spitzweg concluded. The weasels liked the idea of having a giant as a friend, so they had a pretty bad conscience for treating the man so harshly,
Were they one-eyed
even though they
weasels?
would never have admitted it.
Okay, enough
They put
sexual
down
innuendo.
their
I swear, that's the last
chestnut-filled
one.
shoulder bags.
It's over.
One of them
Unless they
cautiously
start
walked
mentioning,
over to the
onions.
unconscious human
Then we gotta make
and
another
put a
joke.
chestnut into one of his jacket pockets, as a sign of friendship, and in the hope that the human would throw it away where the humans lived, where there weren't so many lovely trees as in Mousewood. The human started mumbling and sighing in his sleep. The animals couldn't quite get what he was saying, but it sounded something like, "Where's the deck of cards?" The weasels looked at Spitzweg as they
Get your
believed
best
he
Yu-Gi-Oh
knew
cards.
what
We're
the
gonna
human
settle
was
this in
talking
Yu-Gi-Oh
about.
prison.
But the marmot just shrugged. Humbert's little sister let go of her brother's hand and ran over to the slumbering visitor.
Freaking Humbert.
Tired? She asked, and touched the huge human's nose with her small paw. That seemed to tickle the unconscious man. He suddenly started moving. Humbert took his sister's hand, and the animals swiftly retreated to the bushes at the roadside. From there they watched the man regain consciousness. He smacked his lips, scratched his nose, and opened his eyes.
Where am
Look,
I?
he's awake. Can you see him looking around? Spitzweg asked the youngsters. Yes, said Humbert, watching excitedly, as the human first supported himself with his hands and then struggled to his feet and stretched to full size again. What imposing creatures those humans were. Of course, you had to be careful with them since they could possibly become erratic. But watching a wild human was truly a unique experience.
I know people who do this at
the
malls.
young man got up and
They'll
dusted
go watch
himself
like
down.
people in the mall.
He
And
wondered what had
they'll
happened
make like an
and why he
endeavor,
woke
like
him
a
up on the
day
ground.
trip out of it. It's crazy.
Finally, he accepted the idea he had tripped over, the thought that clearly embarrassed him. He looked around to make sure no one had witnessed his misfortune. But there were no humans or animals to be seen. So he relaxed and started whistling again. Just as he was about to walk on, he discovered something in his pocket. Look, He's found my chestnut, one of the weasels
Oh, I
said.
gave him my nut.
And he's looking at it very closely. He seems to like it, doesn't he?
Ooh, chestnuts are
One
kind
of
of
the other
delicious,
weasels
man.
commented. The human turned the chestnut over in his palm and obviously found it a lovely chestnut.
Ooh.
He put it back in his pocket and
This
took
is like
it
the
along
Great Owl
with him.
Forest, right?
Then the animal's new friend wandered off down the forest track, whistling. The animals watched him disappear, and little Tina waved to him. "Goodbye," she said. "How come you know so much about humans?" one of the weasels asked Spitzweg. "I've learned many things about them on my journeys," he answered. "But I've also seen a lot of animals that would seem strange to most people in Mousewood." "Have you seen a tapir?" one of the
Oh,
weasels
man, a
wanted to know.
tapir.
"Indeed, I saw one in a park in the city," Spitzweg replied. "They've got stripes, haven't they?" another weasel inquired. "The tapir I met didn't have any stripes," Spitzweg said. "I always thought tapirs had stripes, at least 2 or 3 on their backs," the weasel said, pondering. "There may be tapirs with stripes. It's possible," the wayfaring marmot admitted. "I had stripes when I was little," Fiddler the Boar said. "Uncle Henry has stripes too," added Humbert. Then he bade the others good-bye, as he had to take his little sister home. It was already past noon, and both had to be back for lunch. Little Tina said good-bye to the large boar and walked off with her brother. A few quick good-byes later, the weasels left as well. All 3 of them were still a bit upset, having been taught a lesson by the marmot and his brawny friend. But in the end, the marmot was right. "Sleep is the reward for staying up all day, and I think I'm going to collect my share," Spitzweg said again to his friend the boar. "Then go and get your well-earned rest."
Go to
grunted
rest,
his
my
tusky
friend. Go to rest.
They walked to the marmot's home near Buttercup Meadows
A moment
and
house.
agreed to meet later that evening and enjoy some pints of blue juice. Because blue juice was unique to Mousewood.
Yeah, it was also
Spitzweg
alcoholic
unlocked the
properties
door
to
and
it.
stepped into his shady house, the home he had been so far away from for so long. Finally, the marmot could leave his heavy rucksack on the floor and fall onto his cosy couch. The young man, meanwhile, had reached his family's house and was about to let himself in. Then he remembered the chestnut in his pocket. The human looked at the shiny red-brown chestnut from Mousewood. Not knowing what else to do with it, he tossed it into one of the flower beds in the garden. Maybe he had a hunch that that was just the right place for it. 8th
Woo!
story. Last but not least, a wizard proven right, and a badger finishes his work. Ludwig.
Alright, we're gonna stop right here. We're gonna have one more video, and we're gonna check out the final thing, the story of the wizard and Mousewood. So, this has been Kuuimpact with Let's Play The Night of the Rabbit. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and comment. Next time, we're gonna finish the game. For real this time. With the final story. See you then.